as he usually is.
Brown drives, layup off the glass.
That's not the first time we've seen a superstar in green and white sacrifice the body.
Garnett knocked away.
Welcome into another episode of First to the Floor. Ben Vallis here. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're doing well. Wayne Spooney and Jake Eisenberg are both here. Spooney, how's it going, man?
It's going great, man. In news, absolutely no one but me cares about. Everton, my soccer team, beat Newcastle United 3-0 today. It was a beautiful day in the sports world. Yeah, let's go.
Love to hear it. Jake, any other sporting wins to report?
No. It's all bad football-wise. I'm fighting for my life in one of the leagues. I'm in the playoffs for spending 24 hours at the Macca's Bowl officially, so that starts this week. And I need to win this week in my other league to make sure I don't have to face running a half marathon while also drinking 6 beers while doing it. So no, mostly bad for me this week. That's okay.
If you do have to do that marathon with the beers, please capture something for the pod. For our content's sake. That sounds amazing. Godspeed, Jake. The Pacers won just early, just before we went live, which if we want to talk about other sporting wins, is huge just as far as the seeding situation is concerned for the Celtics. The Bucks were nipping at our heels a little bit there, so for them to cop a loss and have to take the long flight home from Vegas and mess with their sleep schedule and travel schedule is good for us from a mild Schadenfreude perspective. But look, for this one, the Celtics, they're 20 games into the season, which is classically that first stop during the season where you can zoom out and evaluate a team with large enough sample size. I guess the caveat being that this Celtics team, that I think we're all in agreement that they're still calibrating everything with all the new personnel and thus are likely to improve on where things are at now. But we're going to do it anyway. 20-game sample size. It's significant enough for us to dive into here. So here's the format, guys. One thing that's exceeded expectations, one thing that's met your expectations, and one thing that is keeping you up at night, having fallen brutally short of expectations. So we're going to apply this to the team level, holistically, and at the individual player level as well. So with that said, Spoonie, do you want to start us off? What has exceeded your expectations from the team level perspective?
All right, we're starting off with maybe the most boring thing on the planet, the rebounding.
Hey.
Hey, fireworks, baby.
Let's go.
We got on here. We talked about how Rob's out the door, smart, great at boxing out, pretty solid defensive rebounder for a guard. Obviously, that's before, rather Smart's out the door before we get Drew, but then Rob out the door. KP, historically a bad defensive rebounder, especially for his abnormal size. I think we were right. Al Horford's another year older. We were right to be worried about the rebounding. They're third in the NBA in defensive rebounding percentage, and they're actually way better at offensive rebounding this year, too. I think they were 27th last year, and they're all the way up to like 19th in offensive rebounding percentage. So we're third in overall rebounding percentage. Last year we were ninth. So we're actually better at rebounding the ball this season than we were last year. And that's something that I was like legitimately concerned about. I mean, can you guys really remember, we've had our crunch time struggles. Maybe we'll get to it.
No.
But can you guys remember like truly back-breaking offensive rebounds we've given up in crunch time where it's like, oh no, 2 straight? Like I feel like we've been really, really great on the glass. And I think going in, I was pretty worried about it.
It helps that PJ Tucker now is in the Western Conference.
Yes.
And now he can't secure these dumb. And it's what's funny. He's been on all of our rivals, the Bucks, then the Heat, and then the Sixers, and constantly grabbing these back-breaking offensive rebounds. Now he's completely out of the conference. I wonder how much the PJ Tucker is impacting these clutch rebounding. But yeah, dude, I think it's just a team buy-in, and I think Porzingis clearly bought in. I'm definitely impressed by his rebounding, but if I was going to assign one person responsible for the collective rebounding attribute boost, it's Al Horford. And this could be another Al Horford episode, but his buy-in on the boards, he's rebounding at a rate that he's never rebounded at before, and Tatum does it, has been doing it, last season as well. Horford doing something at 37 years old that you would think would take like an athleticism kind of boost, but he's just made it a focus of his game night to night, and it's had a legit impact on the rest of the team.
Yeah, I had resigned to the fact that we would never be an effective rebounding team ever again, because it felt like for the better part of the last decade, it's been our Achilles heel. So for that to be like a notable point of emphasis this year, yeah, I think it's fair to say that it's exceeded all of our expectations. Folks in the chat, let us know, and let us know what's exceeded, met, and fallen short of your expectations as well. Jake, what's exceeded your expectations at a team level this year so far?
At a team level, the defense. The defense. I was not someone that thought... I thought the defense was going to be good still, but I did not think that I was going to see a potential ceiling. Maybe not quite as... I know the numbers indicate we maybe could be as good as that January to March stretch in 2022.
Sacred stretch.
Yeah,
Healthy Rob stretch.
The healthy... the chosen one stretch. But, you know, Marcus slipped last year. Drew Holiday has been really good defensively. Jaylen Brown defensively. I think the overall buy-in, we've got to hang our hat on defense. All those comments in the offseason, them actually carrying it into the regular season. And that's really been the thing that's gotten them through this offensive downturn, has been this consistent defense night to night. That has been something that's surprised me, because it gives me confidence night to night. They're going to be in every game. They've been blown out in one game. Technically, it was the Magic game, but even that was more like they stopped trying and the scoreline kind of got out of whack. There was actually a close game for the whole night. Having a really good defense is going to give you a chance to win every single night. And once the offense comes along, they should start to rattle off a bunch of wins. But man, the defense, across the board, House Trap, JT, JB playing some of the best defense of his career. Pleasantly surprised by the defense this year.
Yeah, so 100... Oh, go ahead, Ben. Sorry.
Oh, just quickly, I had the defense as well. So a few stats here. 108.2 points per 100 possessions per cleaning the glass. Good for second in the league through these 20 games so far. You mentioned the defensive rebounding, but also a couple of stats here from cleaning the glass. Second in limiting opponent scoring in transition. Second in opponent field goal percentage at the rim. Fourth in opponent effective field goal percentage overall. Third in limiting opponent free throw attempts. So these are sort of like the calling cards, the hallmarks of a good, effective defense through and through. So, and I guess just zooming out, the fluidity of the defense as well, like things like the timing of the help defense, those weak side rotations behind that help defense. Like, we make excuses for the offense needing more time to get in sync given the new personnel, and yet the defense somehow is already on a string. So it's good to see, and it's holding us up, like you guys said, some of these poor shooting games.
Yeah, so I grabbed a couple met expectations. I had the defense in met expectations just because I thought it would be really good. It's probably a little bit better than I expected, but I don't know if it's like totally exceeded expectations, but that's just because my expectations were really, really high. And yeah, I think the way Drew's fit is probably better than we could hope in these first 20 games. Like, it's hard to learn to do defense, and we play defense way different than the Bucks do. Mm-hmm. And like, then you look at like the bench guys like Pritchard, like, is he a plus defender? Absolutely not. But he gets in there. He's solid at the point of attack. Like, he's heady. Same with Hauser, the house trap, baby. We talk about it all the time. Like, and Cornette, for his many weaknesses, is a solid rim protector. And then like KP has just been so good. You know, like, we talk about sort of this lull in the Celtics the last, 10 games. Well, KP's missed 5 of them. And I think we're just like, I'm like forgetting how truly impactful he was for those first 15 games. So yeah, the defense has been absolutely awesome. So I think it's a great choice.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I was gonna say it's gonna be really exciting. You know, when Rob was playing and the rebounding was be like, I can't. Luke Cornett, he's trying so hard, but he's just not Rob.
Yeah.
Again, Luke Cornett's trying so hard, but he's not Porzingis, and it's gonna be really exciting to get him back, because Luke Cornett over the past 6 games has been playing 16 minutes per game, which is a lot for a Luke Cornett positive, I will admit.
I think he might be Luke Cornett neutral. That might be the
yes.
nickname.
Hello.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
Just on the defense before we move on, I think it's probably fair for a lot of people listening, like, it's probably wavering between, or teetering between, exceeding expectations and meeting expectations, like it has for us on the pod here. for me, it's exceeded. I didn't think the defense would be bad necessarily, but second ranked overall has exceeded my expectations, especially considering, like we've said, we lost Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, even Malcolm Brogdon, who's like a lengthy switchy guard. And obviously we got some personnel back. Drew Holiday, he is a good defender, but you can't tell me that we were all completely sold on how effective KP was going to be defensively despite his lack of nimbleness and agility. So the fact that it's held strong at second ranked in the league through 20 games, I think is really promising. That was my exceeded as well. I've got a couple of honorable mentions, which I think we've all prepared in the case that we are overlapping each other here. Team chemistry, I think, just for a completely non-statistical view of something that's exceeded expectations, specifically the Porzingis, Jaylen Brown buddy cop movie that is continuing to play out in front of our eyes is awesome. But then just through and through, when you let go of guys like Marcus Smart, there's almost a sense of needing to scramble to like fall in love with the team again so that the championship, if they do get there, really means as much to you as it possibly could. And I feel like there's a lot of guys, Porzingis as well, Cornette has risen back up to the top again as far as like some of the most likable players on the team. It's already, to me, a very likable team, and part of that is just how the chemistry is clearly playing out for these guys as well.
Does it change your view or perspective on like the importance or value of team chemistry, leadership, that kind of stuff? Or does it just kind of speak to the guys that were left in the locker room? Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, probably top of the list. The ability to maintain that level of culture, and Porzingis coming in and actually being like a really positive locker room guy as well. Because I definitely had concerns about their vibes on this team. That Porzingis just definitely didn't have the reputation as a vibes guy. He had the opposite reputation, I think, if anything, right? So does that change your view on the importance of it, or is just the like people be underrating the leadership skills of Horford, Tatum?
Or does it change your view on Marcus Smart maybe a little bit? Maybe it's kind of a breath of fresh air that he's not in the lot. I don't want to ask the question now. we love Marcus, but like maybe it was time,
Yeah, not to mention Grant Williams. Mentioned because he wasn't a leader on this team, but it's certainly a voice. Is it a blessing and a curse in that the accommodating, chill nature of our leaders like Al Horford and Tatum and Brown, great for a locker room vibe, great for galvanizing a team, but also in crunch time when, we need some... like big balls dance for like the correct term wasn't coming to me. Someone to make the decisions. That is the correct term. Thank you. Yeah. Some decisiveness and leadership. We don't have that out there at the same time. So in that sense, I think it can be a good thing and a bad thing simultaneously.
Just a tiny, we need just a tiny bit extra alpha at times, it feels like.
But again, 20 games in, and while it's a large enough sample size to have this conversation, maybe not enough time for the Jays to really fall into the groove of what their leadership potential could be. So let's circle back on that in another 20 game time. Any other honorable mentions on exceeded before we move to Met?
I got a hot take, maybe.
Okay.
Joe Mazzulla.
Oh, nice.
I love what Mazzulla's been doing with the defense. I think we talked about individually, all the players have been excellent on defense, but he has switched it up more than any coach, more than Brad did, more than Ime did, and I think the roster allows him to do that more than some of those teams. And obviously, Udoka was blessed with the only time Robert Williams was actually healthy for any length of times. And Joe is credited for doing the switch with Rob Williams and making him the roamer. And I think we've just seen a lot of different things on defense that is just pure coaching, and basically all of it has worked except for that weird half-court trap we did for 2 games, and it absolutely didn't work, and he went away from it. Hey, so credit to him. Try some stuff early season, and then get out of there. And I think he's done a really good job of managing the deep bench, where he's giving guys opportunities. It's Banton's opportunity now, but we saw Brissett earlier. We've seen some Lamar Stevens. He's trusted Peyton Pritchard to get out of that insane slump, and I feel like there's some coaches who would have pulled the hook earlier, but it's paid off. Peyton's been really good recently, so I think, maybe it's because the expectations for Joe were kind of low, but I feel like he's exceeded them so far this year.
Yeah, I have coaching in Met, but I think that's because I was someone who was high on the coaching bump coming into this season. I was someone that was like, people keep talking about how Joe got thrown into a bad situation and how it was going to be difficult for him to adapt, but they weren't actually adjusting their expectations for what they should have expected. And so based on that, I was like really high on honestly, the Reddick pod really helped because you never get these guys on full like conversations that outside of these 10-minute press conferences that they don't want to be at. But it was very clear that he had reflected a lot and was like, I was bad a lot last year. And so I was confident that he couldn't be worse. I didn't even think he was that bad last year outside the playoffs, potentially. I knew he'd be better. And then you bring in the Cassell and the Charles Lee thing. I was like, the overall coaching bump, I was really in on. So I met expectations when it comes to coaching.
Okay, well, sliding into met expectations at a team level. New offensive tendencies or strategies. We heard all about it with the new assistant coaching staff. We knew that there was going to be a slight change in approach to, particularly our offense and things like post-ups, which are 7.5 post-up attempts per game at 1.21 points per play per cleaning the glass last year. Just 3.1 post-up possessions per game at 1 point per play. So a notable difference in both the efficiency and the frequency as well. Cuts per game. We've got a 71.3 score frequency off cuts this season. Good for fourth in the league. That was down to 65.6 score frequency at 17th last year. So again, a huge bump there. There's a slight uptick in pick and roll possessions across the board. I mentioned the new coaching staff. I guess sticking with the offensive strategy here, we're still shooting the most threes in the league. We've got a 44.2% three-point shooting frequency across all of our shot diet. Yet we're only 16th in three-point shooting accuracy at 36.8%. But 15-5, guys. Like, most of our losses have been really close games despite some poor shooting.
Yeah, the offense has been up and down, it feels like. But for me, the post-up stuff has been the most encouraging. When you mention the post-up numbers, that's something that we've been begging for what feels like years, but really it was just the one year last year. And for them to actually lean into it with Porzingis and Tatum has really given me confidence on what they can actually achieve in crunch time in the playoffs, because really you watch some of these, even some of the in-season tournament games, even today, like being able to just do one thing that you're confident that you can get to at any point, late shot clock, and having, especially Tatum, really, but able to do something that you feel comfortable in and that can get the offense moving. Honestly, wish that, again, Tatum's doing it more, but it feels like it should still be more, especially the way that his shot diet's kind of playing out, but which I'm going to get to. But yeah, the post-up in particular, I feel like, again, for me, is meeting expectations, because we really wanted it to see a massive uptick, which we've seen, but I feel like we can even still see more.
Yeah, so this dovetails like perfectly into my expectations, Ben, and that is the varied ways we're attacking the rim. Like last year, and really for the whole Jays career, it just felt like the only way we'd get to the rim is like in the Kemba days. It was like, please, Kemba, get to the rim and get the defense in rotation. Or please, Jason, get to the rim, get the defense in rotation. And with the post-ups, with the cuts, with the pick and roll, and Tatum is like murdering people in isolation this year. I think it was maybe NBA University had a tweet for like high volume ISO players, efficiency, and number of possession or percentage of their possessions. And Tatum was like way in the top right corner, by far the most efficient isolation guy in the NBA for a high volume guy. So I think a big part of that is because he's attacking the defense in all these varied ways, like especially with the post-ups. Sometimes it's off the pick and roll off a switch. Sometimes it's straight up like get him in the high post, let him face up, and then let him go to work. And it felt like his offense, especially last year, was pretty one note. It's either like get to the rim or shoot a three. And now he's operating in that mid-range game. He's operating in the post. And the whole team really takes on his identity, right? Because he's the best player, and they're all doing those things, right? And KP's been a huge part of this as well. Like, he's a guy you can kind of do a bunch of very different things with, especially getting to the rim or getting him like from that like 8-foot range where it's just not a lot of guys are efficient from there, but KP can basically dunk it from there because his arms are so long. It's basically a layup for him.
Yeah.
So there's just like the paint touches just feel more impactful, feel more deliberate this season. And the games where they're not doing that stuff feels so like out of sorts. It feels so bad, to lack of a better way to describe it, right? It feels so off.
It is very bad.
Because they've been so good at it. Yeah.
Yeah, the approach is, just to be clear, is what has met expectations, I think, for all of us. The execution and the wavering nature of that and the inconsistency around that execution, maybe we can get to that in what's fallen short of expectations, but at least the approach to the game is as advertised, I think, so far. And we've gone into seasons past being told things are going to be different this year. There's going to be new points of emphasis to address points of concern from previous years. And then it's just been the same old Celtics again. So while this team is far from perfect, we have seen a lot of steps in the right direction as far as that offensive approach. Jake, what else has met your expectations this year?
The bench. I think the bench has met my expectations. I did not think that the bench was going to be like Oklahoma City bench or New Orleans Pelicans bench. Some of these teams that can legitimately go like 10, 11, 12. But I was confident in Al Horford, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard. Luke Cornett. The part that's been Luke Cornett ish. Honestly, Luke Cornett has really come around, and the part what's been funny about this stretch, and I think the big reason why we're like actually staying afloat in this stretch is that our best player Tatum has kind of taken a downturn, but Luke Cornett's been much better over the past like 6-7 games, especially since Porzingis has gone down. Pritchard's kind of found himself. Hauser had a rough really was a rough 4 games. And since then, he has been absolutely lights out. And I'm assuming he might find his way into the individual exceeding expectations category. Something that's been disappointing, but not necessarily a reason to put them into the not meeting expectations, has been I would have liked to have seen Lamar Stevens. And it's crazy to me that he's getting so it was O'Shea's, as you mentioned, O'Shea's crack. Now it's Banton's crack. I'm hoping Lamar Stevens gets a shot soon. I really wish that they would give Walshy a shot if they were going to try this Banton stuff. I saw someone in the chat here being like, I like Banton in most aspects, but he can't shoot or finish at a decent level. Well, then what is the point then? Because we have other guys that are better at some of the other aspects that he's doing. Like, if he's not going to be handling the ball, which he's not, which he really shouldn't be, because there's going to be a bunch of better ball handlers anyway, why not go to someone like Lamar Stevens, who is a legitimately good defender and someone who can offensive rebound. And honestly, he's probably a better offensive player than Banton at this point. But man, Walshy, I don't know why they wouldn't try Walshy in these weird Banton minutes. I just don't think he would be worse at all.
I think he might be worse. As much as I love Walshy, he has had a bit of a deer. I mean, he's a rookie drafted in the second round, and while he's got he's got that tenacity, he clearly has good defensive instincts. We saw was it the preseason when he got some court time? He still looked pretty lost from a team defensive scheme standpoint, and we're trying to win these games. Like, it is a little close up the top in the Eastern Conference standings. So I don't know if we're into that phase of like Joe's season-long experimentation yet.
But what's Banton doing that Walshy can't do? I don't understand.
Dribble, defend, switch, rebound a little bit. And I maintain he's theoretically the best player in the NBA. So we've got to at least let that play out to some degree. At least with Lamar, we know what we've got, right? Let's try and find out what we might have with Delano Banton before we pull the.
But you're saying a lot of if we just cut. Let's see what we might have with Delano Banton. Let's see what we might have with Jordan Rosh. Out of shot.
I think Joe really values the fact that Banton can dribble the ball and play his style of offense. We're Walsh is just gonna sit in the corner and hope he makes a 3, right? He's not gonna be doing the handoff stuff. Ban gets involved a little bit.
Man, come on, guys.
He's a little bit.
Okay. Sure.
First, he must fail in order to learn to succeed. But also we're trying to win a championship. Any honorable mentions for met expectations before we fall onto the sullen category of what's fallen short?
I had the defense, so we already covered that.
Yeah,
Jake,
I'm all
what's
good.
fallen short expectation-wise for yourself?
It has been the offense for me. I know the approach has been there, but at the same time, it just actually no, which is even more micro in there. But the pace has. I feel like the pace is up a little bit still, but I just don't understand why they don't play faster. And again, I'm going to get to someone who I think whose fault this is, but overall, they need to play faster. They have so much athleticism on the court with their two best players and guys like Derek White and Drew Holiday that can just grab the ball and go. And then got trail. You can shoot trail threes with Horford and Porzingis. Like you see what the Pacers are doing, and obviously like they're playing so fast. I'm not sure they want to do that, but you can kind of rig the system to increase your ability on offense, like your efficiency on offense. You're either getting more shots up, you're catching teams on their heels more often, and because their defense is better than the Pacers, they're actually getting stops and able to get out and run and semi-transition a bit more. The pace of the team, to me, at times, I felt early as well in the first 10 games. Yeah, I got some pace stats coming up for Tatum in a bit
get
here.
there.
Yeah, but the pace, and I'm sure just play faster, everybody, please.
Is that what Joe likes about Banton? Because he can grab the ball and he can go.
Sure.
I mean, that's one thing he brings is pace. But yeah, I'm with you. And what's so frustrating is when they do play fast, they look so good too. You know what I mean? And just why is this not a regular part of the team? And I don't think it's coaching, because you'll often see Joe be like, go,
Dude.
go, what are you doing?
Joe, Brad, Ime, just how
The
many
third
guys,
baseman, come
what do we
around,
do?
you're
Maybe-
scoring.
Can we get a couple of third base coaches in? Put them on opposite baselines and sidelines. Just get more guys out there.
I know. It just doesn't make sense. And you can still get into your more intentional, slower sets if there's nothing there. It's not like you're conceding oh, we went fast, so now we can't post up Porzingis. Not how basketball works. You just have more time to try that. So it makes no sense. That's a great one.
What do you got, Spoonie?
I've got the 3-point shooting. Outside of, if you removed Sam Hauser, who is shooting 45% from three from the equation, they are shooting 34.5% from three as a team, which is equivalent to the Detroit Pistons, who are 24th in the NBA. Is a non-Sam Hauser Boston Celtics the Detroit Pistons of shooting, with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Al Horford, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Actually, Derek's shooting 39%, so he could probably, he's excused as well. But Pritchard's shooting 31, 32%. They just can't shoot. How many games? I would say 4 of their losses, if they shoot 33% from three, they win those games, which is incredibly frustrating. And then it just feels like they don't have many of those games where oh, we shot the lights out and this is a blowout. And I think there's going to be some regression to the positive here for them. But first of all, Tatum just needs to cut out 2 pull-ups. And I know we'll get to that,
up.
Jake, but he's just got to cut that shit out. And dude, what happened to Jalen's 3-point shot? It's just gone. He just can't make them. And he's too good. He's been making them for too long for this to be the real Jaylen Brown. So I just the shooting is so frustrating. It'll come back, I'm sure. But man, it's tough to watch.
He needs to cut out a couple. He needs to cut out the pull-ups as well, because I was looking at it.
Yeah.
He's still shooting 36% on catch and shoot threes, which is not awesome.
Fine.
But that's exactly, absolutely, totally fine. Yeah, him, and then that's why the overall percentage is down as well, is because Jaylen takes a bunch of him, and Tatum's just slowly coming back down. But he's still at 35.7%. That's kind of a place that we're kind of happy with. The main 2 guys, it's Pritchard and Porzingis. Porzingis has been consistently a 38, 39, 40% 3-point shooter for most of his career. And Pritchard, that's one I was confident in was going to come around. And he's definitely been better lately. But then I filtered it down to the last 6 games. He was 0 for 5 in the Pacers game. And that's a game where we just really needed someone to show up there. And then he's last 6 games he's back to 33% once you include the Pacers game. He really needs to hit shots. I understand, and that was why we were singing his praises there for a couple games, because he keeps doing the little things. But his entire existence about being a truly impactful guy off the bench comes from being a legitimate spacer and a legitimate knockdown guy.
Do you think that the poor three-point shooting is at least partially a symptom of the team not being on the same page offensively? Because this is wild speculation, but like three-point shooting, confidence is a huge factor. We've talked about it with Peyton Pritchard all season. Like you need to, and really this applies at like any level of basketball, you truly need to believe that your shot is going in for it to have any chance of going in. And guys like Jaylen Brown, for example, do you think maybe he's putting up a shot and thinking, oh shit, like maybe I should have passed this ball, maybe I should have dribbled, got to the rim, and that lack of certainty as to whether or not he should be taking that shot, again, wild speculation, is actually contributing to the dip in shooting percentage? Or am I completely off my head here?
No, Eric Weiss is good. I'm breaking my own rule here and overreacting to the short sample size when it comes to three-point shooting. Absolutely. But I do actually think you're onto something, Ben. Maybe not with Pritchard, because I think he's actually getting clean looks. Porzingis, on the other hand, I was actually watching a clip from our Bucks Celtics playback room, because I'm cutting together some stuff for the Celtics blog launch. And we're watching the Jaylen Brown Porzingis highlights. And Jaylen hits him just in the shooting pocket. And I feel like so much of Porzingis' pick and pops this year, they're just a tick late or a tick off, all of them. And I honestly think that's contributing to his 3-point percentage. He's just not getting clean passes and clean looks. It's because he's 7'3", people aren't as focused on giving him good looks. And the same thing was happening to Al. And then all of a sudden, he's getting cleaner passes, more open looks. And shockingly, he starts knocking more shots down. So I actually do think that it is part of it, is just being 10 to 20% more crisp on offense, and then bang, all of a sudden Porzingis is going to go on a run, and we're going to be blowing teams out again.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
go ahead, Spoots.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think there's absolutely something to that, Ben, because we're shooting 41% on wide open threes. But if you take out Hauser, who's shooting 60% on wide open threes, that drops into the mid 30s, right? So this team is not bad at shooting wide open threes. I think it is they're just uncomfortable. And Jake, yeah, we've been complaining about the bad passes to Porzingis, who's got to reach up, grab it. It's these are not hard passes. Come on, he's pick and pop, he's wide open, lets the defender come over. And the kickouts to the corner always just feel like they're at the shoelaces, or the guy's got to jump. And it's just, yeah, I think it comes down to just not being comfortable on offense.
Yeah, I think they will figure it out, though. I am confident about that. And speaking of confidence, for falling short of expectations, and then we'll get to an ad break here, I had the bad habits. And, I talked a moment ago about how we go into seasons with promises about how not this year, guys, we're going to resolve all of those annoying, fucking super frustrating issues. And then this year, difficulty holding a large lead, lackluster third quarters, sometimes lackluster fourth quarters, crunch time execution issues. Even in that first game against the Knicks where they executed in crunch time, you're boom, they nailed it. They've solved this problem. They can now execute in crunch time. Well, they can't, at least not consistently. And then just the Jays not leading us in these scenarios, which again, we touched on. I guess my fall and short is an aggregation of a lot of the things that we just talked about in the last 5 minutes.
Sure.
And just the Jays not calling a play, but just going into isolation. We saw it late in the quarterfinal there against the Pacers. These are glaring habitual problems that we get glimmers of hope are going to be resolved at the beginning of each season, and then as it plays out and as we get to a larger sample size here, we see that it's still a problem. The good news is that they've got another 62 games to figure it out, but historically I don't have a lot of confidence that they will. What do you guys think?
I think there's a pretty good chance we're screaming into the heavens come playoff time about some of these things popping up again. And that does not mean that they cannot win the title. Plenty of flawed teams have won the title, but I can't see them truly ridding themselves of a bunch of these issues this season. I don't know. I can't do it. I've just been burned too many times.
I will say the stupid fucking turnovers are absolutely unexplainably maddening, and I do not get it at all at times. But the crunch time, I think if you look at when we failed in crunch time and Porzingis has played, we have been generating good shots off of decent stuff. It's really been these last few games where KP hasn't played that it's grinded down to our old bad habits. So I will steal something Jake said. The solution is on the roster. I think KP really is the solution to that disgusting, grindy shit crunch time offense. But yeah, man, they just still Tatum just I'll just dribble into two guys and see what happens. Jaylen, I think recently has kind of cleaned up his act with the turnovers and the dumb stuff. But still, that Knicks game, the reason we almost lost is because Jaylen passed it to the Knicks.
That was game one.
Executed. Yeah, he executed.
You can at least tell that Jaylen is trying.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I think that's maybe the biggest difference between them both right now. It's at least you can tell Jaylen has bought in defensively and is trying to work on the passing and the turnovers. Whereas Tatum does not really feel like he's made it a focus so far.
How's that for exceeding expectations?
At all?
Jaylen Brown is trying. He's exceeded my expectations thoroughly. All right, we're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor, FanDuel, and then come back and go through the expectations cycle again from an individual player perspective. Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action. The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
I got one. I obviously missed on the Knicks Bucks one. I will say the Bucks shot 60% from three. The Knicks actually kept it pretty close for a lot of the game. There's not a lot you could do with that one. Now the Celtics play the Bucks at home. I believe we're still undefeated at home. Knicks underdogs, 6.5 points. I saw Josh Hart retweet the idea now that the Knicks have to play the Celtics a fifth time and on the road. And his quote was, "Have to love the IST." Is that a winner's mentality? I don't think so.
Big time loser mentality.
Big time loser mentality. But also they have to go on the road to play the Bucks. Now have to go on the road to play the Celtics. I do think Celtics -6.5, and I've been pretty on with the Celtics so far. I bet on the Pacers to win. Unfortunately,
they are good.
Obviously they just beat the Bucks. Oh, by the way, how tilting is it that the Pacers won? By the way, but 21% from three.
Yeah,
I know.
We don't recognize on this show the tournament in which they did that in though, so it means nothing to me.
Absolutely. But also, I was just going to say, while I'm here, we've kind of teased it, but and a bunch of you have been in the first of the floor playback room at times. It's been awesome. But Celtics blog is partnering with Playback and launching doing a big partnership. And the three of us are going to be on this playback room a bunch, but we are able to offer some VIP passes, and which basically means you will get free reign access, and you won't have any of the games blacked out. This VIP pass is for free. I've given the pass to a few people in the chat here already, but if you would like one, you see all the tags in the middle of the screen here. Either DM me at Jake Eisenberg or First to the Floor on Twitter or Instagram if you would like one, and I'll get you set up, and you basically get free access to Playback and not just our room, but any room, which means you'll be able to watch any NBA game for the most part for free, no matter what, whether it's in market or out of market. So yeah, big things happening, and we'll hope you guys join along. The first game's going to be the Cavs game, and myself, Spoonie, and Ben are going to be the people launching the partnership with Celtics Blog and Playback. Very exciting. But yes, DM me if you want, or us if you want a VIP pass.
Yeah, it's an awesome partnership there between Celtics blog and Playback. We have had so much fun on Playback for a couple of years now. So to see other, larger entities buying into that, and then putting a guy like Jake in charge as well, which is just awesome. And I know, Jake, you're going to do an amazing job at it. And those VIP passes are nothing to shake a stick at. So get involved while you can, while they're available. Also,
putting
while
me
you're
in
here.
charge. Good luck, Playback.
Genius.
Yeah. Well, look, also while we're promoting things, subscribe to the First of the Floor YouTube channel as well. Helps us with the algorithm, helps put our content in front of more people. And when we reach out to potential guests and things like that, things like numbers, viewer numbers, and subscriber numbers really help allure guests who otherwise might not want to come on a show this small. So subscribe. And if you're on the First of the Floor YouTube channel, head over to the CLNS channel and do the same thing. All right. Players, Spoonie, player that has exceeded your expectations most. Who you got?
All right, I've got two, and I think that they're I don't know. I feel like we're going to have significant overlap here, so I'm just going to steal the obvious one. I think it's Sam Hauser.
Yeah, okay.
I know. Wait, did you both have him?
I'm sure that we all
that was
had
number
it,
one.
yes.
Yeah, you go.
Okay. No, I will go.
We're running over time anyway, so this is good.
How's up?
Dude, he's shooting 60% on wide open threes. Yeah. Like, the defense has been totally fine, just like last year. I think it was legitimate concern that teams would figure him out. They haven't. They still just try to attack him in isolation, and he's fine. We haven't really seen his game, like the dribble drive game, really like flower much this year, which is a bizarre metaphor, but I'm going with it. But he's developed a more diverse, I think, jump shot. Like I keep comparing him to Kyle Korver. I think there's something there. Like, he's getting the one dribble pump fake, one dribble pull ups. Like, he's just been money. He's saved us in games. So Sam Hauser, I think, is the obvious one here.
Absolutely. Dude, 45% from three on the year, like on 6.3 attempts. It's crazy. He is just born to be a shooter.
Yeah.
Like, they're very, like, it's so funny that we drafted, and obviously it's great to see Neesmith doing really well for the Pacers. Kind of really, it feels good and also bittersweet, but also, like, we drafted him specifically to come in and be the shooter guy, and to find Hauser, finally we're a team that's found one of these guys.
Suck it, Heat.
Suck it.
Yes,
this undrafted guy that is on this ridiculous contract that is absolutely the seventh most important player on this roster, and like would be untouchable in a low tier trade. Like, you're not moving Hauser in a Caruso trade. He has become a dude that, how many minutes has he even playing this year? Like, he's playing 23 minutes a game. That's honestly more than I had him billed for. I thought he might get up to the 20 mark, but he has been a catalyst for keeping the team in games. He's blown leads out. He is all you could ask for in his role. Like, 45% from three. Like, every time he gets a wide open shot, I mean, like, honestly feels like those go in less, but he apparently is shooting 60% on wide open ones. But man, some of the quick release, and also I think it's only going to get more obvious, but the way teams have to guard him and start to like translate the way that they're game planning for the Celtics, they're going to become more or less willing to leave him open and less willing to assign more resources to slowing down Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, these guys, because he's just such an easy outlet. And now, you haven't seen the dribble drive stuff quite as much, but I think that will start to come more as teams become less willing to leave him open, because once they are closing out harder, they're closer on these closeouts. That's going to start to open up the dribble drive stuff. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a house party.
Well, house trap as well, defensively, limiting opponents to 47.2% from the field, which is pretty insane, like, given his role and that he's not typically considered a 3-and-D guy. That's pretty effective for, given what our expectations are, or the league's clearly expectations are of him, given that they, up until I think pretty recently, have relentlessly been going at him in games. Has Sam Hauser been better this year than Grant Williams was last year?
No question. Absolutely no question. On both ends.
Close. Yeah.
It's crazy. And Mavs fans starting to get a little taste.
Yeah, I see some tweets.
I feel good about that.
Yeah, the when he's not shooting 57% from three, yeah, things things look a little bit different. I mean,
his defense just fell apart, dude. Like, what happened?
I don't know. And I wonder if I can pull it up quickly here, but I know like one of my big arguments for playing Sam Hauser over Grant Williams was just the volume of threes that Hauser's able to get up because he doesn't have to be open. So Hauser has shot 126 3-pointers this year, and Grant Williams has shot 106 minutes-wise, 547 versus... Because Grant's a starter for them.
Yeah,
and Hauser's played 458. So like almost 100 less minutes and gotten up 20 plus more threes. Mm-hmm. Like it's just a completely different weapon.
Yeah, he's amazing. I love him. So unsurprisingly, he has exceeded all of our expectations. So we all had Sam Hauser. Honorable mentions here, Derek White, who is the plus-minus darling on this team at a plus 14.1. Leaps and bounds ahead of anyone else. He's also, per cleaning the glass, plus 28 in expected win total, which is insane and way higher than anybody else. Other honorable mentions,
What
I'd
is
say
that
Pritchard.
stat? I don't understand that stat. It doesn't make
I think
any
it's
sense
just
to
like
me.
an aggregate of all the positive things, and it's maybe just another way of looking at on-off, like plus-minus. Like this is
How amazing
the-
Derek White is.
Yeah, it's basically
Quite
how
simply,
a Derek
yes.
White stat. Yeah.
Also, honorable mention for exceeded expectations. We've touched on it. Kristaps Porzingis, like he has exceeded expectations, right? Even the injury, touch wood, like took a week off. Not so bad. He's back again quite quickly. And I just think as far as what he offers defensively and his unlocking of the offense, I just don't know if everyone expected him to be as good a fit as he has been.
Yeah, I think Porzingis is a good choice. He's exceeded my expectations. He even timed his injury well. He timed it in a nice little, like, spacious section. He's only going to miss 4 games, when really it was probably more like a 7-game absence, which just is good for the agenda in general, and also he's just going to be available for more games. Missing 4 games, nothing, dude.
Including hugely unimportant in-season tournament games as well.
That's
so
right.
That's great. Spoonie, you look like you've got something to offer on the contrary here.
I mean, if we're moving on, I have Kristaps as my Met expectations.
Okay, let's go there.
He's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah.
He's been fucking awesome for the Celtics. Like,
Okay.
he's really goddamn good. Like, his defensive, like, his rim protection numbers are the exact same as last year. He's been more efficient, but scoring less, which makes sense. Like, if you put a really fucking awesome player in a smaller role, he's probably going to be more efficient, obviously going to score a little less. So I got KP as my Met expectations guy because, like, he's an all-star, guys. Come on.
Well, I didn't. Did you? If he makes the All-Star team, would you have said he's going to be an All-Star?
No, I wouldn't have. So that's fair. No, I get it. I
All-star.
understand. Yeah. I think it's fair to have him in exceeded expectations, but I think we all expected a lot from him, right?
Sure.
And he's met the high expectations.
I think that's fair. For Met expectations, I have Jaylen Brown. I'm sorry to say that Jaylen Brown's performance has met my expectations in that at his best, fans are saying he might be the best player on the team, although not so much this year just because of how generally good Tatum has been. But, at his best this year, he's added this new element of like trying to play the game the right way and has looked incredible in doing so and trying to become a playmaker and trying to be a guy who can lead a second unit, although doing it inconsistently. And it's the inconsistency that has met my expectations in that, like, yes, he looks great for some stretches, but he looks really, really bad for even longer stretches. And there's nothing really in between, it seems. There's not like a happy medium of Jaylen Brown just chipping away and being consistently slightly positive. It seems like he's either great or he's terrible. And all of the advanced stats, I mentioned expected win total, minus 17 on the season for Jaylen Brown thus far, and a minus 10.0 overall, 10.8 rather, as far as his on-off numbers are concerned. So it's the inconsistency that has unfortunately met my expectations. I'd love to see him sort of find a consistent way to contribute.
Oh, interesting. So this is met expectations, because this is exactly what I had, was that he met my expectations, but like, because my expectations were kind of bad or low.
Yeah, exactly.
I, like,
Or just that,
had a
yeah, he would
feeling that
waver
it was
a lot.
gonna. Yeah, and man, I'm like, he's dropped below 70% from the free throw line now as well. It's just, what's frustrating is that, like, the defense is the best it's been in years. I think that's pretty clear and obvious, and a big reason why the defense overall has exceeded my expectations, because him raising that level has been really impactful. But, like, similar to Pritchard, obviously different and more important, but he needs to make shots. And he's like, that's how he made second team All NBA. Even the 3-point shot wasn't awesome last year, but he was like close to 50%. He was at least like 73% from the free throw line. Just the overall efficiency scoring numbers aren't good enough. But at the same time, I had a feeling that we were going to be here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's fair on Jaylen. Frankly, if you were just looking at his offensive numbers, like the raw, like true shooting, stuff like that, you'd probably say he's below expectations. But when you take into account the context of how he's trying to find his role on the team, and Jake, like you said, the defense, and like he's boxing out a ton, which is like something he's never done his entire career. Like I feel like he's dedicated to himself. He must be spending a lot of time with Derek White because he's doing a lot of the little things. So I do think he's met expectations, but maybe in like the way we didn't expect maybe offensively it's the way we expected because it's just kind of looked kind of weird at times. But yeah, man, just like start making some jump shots for the love of God, Jaylen. And then he'll be really buzzing if he starts like the three starts going down a little bit. He'll really have a nice season on his hands.
Yeah, he has looked great, but I know it sounds corny to say, it's kind of cliche, but the only thing that's been consistent is the inconsistency. So hopefully you can get a handle on that. Fallen short of expectations player-wise, I'll start. I think maybe at least one of you might have this as well. Drew Holiday. Defense, great. Offense, not so great. Pretty inconsistent, to stick with the inconsistency theme there. Surprisingly poor decision making. And now if you go and look through Bucks Reddit from a year ago, it's not a surprise to people who are well studied and have studied the ancient scrolls on Drew Holiday. I had not read the tablets, and so it was a surprise to me how inconsistent he can be and how much poor decision making he can exhibit on offense. What do you guys think? Drew Holiday falling short?
I knew about I had read the tablets, so that was baked into my expectations. But he's also fallen short of my expectations because he doesn't need to be a decision maker on this team. That's kind of the whole point, is that his perfect role should be on this team where it's Tatum and Derek White as your main decision makers with Porzingis being heavily involved and then Drew Holiday's filling in the gaps. And honestly, I actually feel like that's mostly been his role. His usage is down like pretty significantly relative to last year, 24% to 17% this year. But the career low true shooting, like 52%, is so bad. Now, 20 games in, that's like we're early days. Early days. That's the fourth game in an NFL season where pretty much you just don't count the first 4 games in the NFL because things are still like yet to even out. And to quote the great Michael Wayne Spooney, we might have to wait till Christmas and we're getting there, but we're still another 3 weeks away. Like that's a lot of basketball still. They've had some time to practice with this little mini break. Definitely still plenty of time for Drew to get more comfortable, or it could just be as simple as some of these like layups aren't going in right now, and I feel like he'll just make more layups.
Yeah, I've got those stats. He shot 68% in the restricted area last year. He's at 56% this season. So there's 2 ways of looking at that, I think. Like one way is like, that'll come up. Obviously, he's been a great finisher his entire career. The other way is he's 33 years old. Should we be concerned? Because that's kind of the first thing that goes for guards is like the finishing at the rim. But he's not Kemba, Sure. He's not Damon Stoudemire. He's not Brandon Jennings.
No,
he's big. Yeah, he's certainly not. Yeah, he's an actual human being that is not any of those 3 people. He's 6'5". You got to think the rim finishing will come back a little bit, and he's missed some absolute bunnies that he just has no business missing. So if that comes back up to the low 60s, I think that true shooting's going to come up. Things will start looking a lot better for him offensively because there was against Indiana. Like the nice thing about Drew is you just throw it to him on the post. They send a double. He's making plays out of it. I think he's very clearly not met the expectations, like flat out 100%.
Anyone not have Drew for falling short player wise?
Yes, I had.
Yeah, that was a layup kick.
Our guy, Jason Tatum. And I have a lot of notes here, a lot of stats here, but I think simply the thing that's been frustrating has been he has the skills. The thing that we really wanted was the post up and the bully ball stuff. We're seeing the post up stuff. We're seeing the mid ranges take a tick up, but we're still not quite seeing the mentality that it really takes to jump up a level. And so Tatum's taking 19.5 field goal attempts per game. The highest amount of his attempts are coming from the restricted area. That's good. 5.9 attempts from the restricted area, 74.6% in the restricted area. That's incredible. That's like 90 plus percentile for like a wing, higher for a wing. The problem is the 5.6 pull-up threes per game. Like, you look at the volume of pull-up three-point shooters, it's a disaster. There are 22 players in the NBA that are taking 3 or more pull-up threes per game. Tatum is dead last. If you open it up to 2 or more per game, he's 47th out of 51. Side note, Malcolm Brogdon's taking 2.4 per game at 27.8%. That pull-up shooting season he had last year may have been an aberration.
Wow.
But like, if you filter out to guys that are taking 4 or 5 attempts per game, Tatum is so aggressively last in percentage again at 29.5%. Like, the next lowest is 35%. He's so far behind. But then catch and shoot threes, 2.8, 45.5%. So he knows how to shoot. Frustratingly, the free throw numbers are down to like 79.9%. I think that's an outlier. That'll come back. We got much too much of a sample size, but I think maybe speaks to his overall focus. Like, just lock in and make your free throws, dude. Mid range up, taking 3.2 per game, 50.8%. That's like some of the best in the league on the volume that he's taking. Like, that looks like it's become an actual new weapon, which is great. And then he's 35.1% on 1.9 non-restricted area, which means his floater still sucks, which we knew. But he's not using that, which is fine. The pull-ups, they have to stop. They have to stop. They have to stop.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a ton to add.
Yeah.
And like, what's frustrating is, like the stuff we wanted from him, like the deeper mid range, he's up around like 50% from the deep mid range stuff, which is such a weapon for a guy like him at his size and the varied ways he can get to those types of shots. The rim stuff, like, and then it's like, dude, he just seems like he doesn't care. And like, goes back to the pace, like, yet again. Walking the ball up, like not moving the ball, like not making quick decisions. And we know he can do it because there's times when he's like, I want to win this game. Yep. So I'm going to be the best version of Jason Tatum. So, I mean, it's a long season. I get it. But good God, he's been frustrating this year.
So I just have some more, and like, it got bad once I started looking into it even more. So this is the maybe the most damning. So do you guys want to guess who moves? I didn't even know you could look this up. Who moves at the average lowest speed on a basketball court?
LeBron.
Close. He's third last.
All right.
Jokic?
No, he's like pretty low. Embiid is the lowest.
Fair.
Embiid is the lowest. Jason Tatum is second last out of all players that are playing.
That's insane.
That are playing 30 minutes per game. There's 97 players that are playing 30 minutes or more. He's second last. It's Embiid, Tatum, LeBron right there. And like, what, like, Giannis is 18th. So by the way, so it's 3.84 miles per hour. Like, all these numbers are close together. But the average speed for Tatum's coming down every year. 2021, 3.97 miles per hour. 21-22, 3.83, 3.76. His career low, 3.63. And as you said, when we know he can do it, and then drive numbers, he's 69th in the league in drives per game, and he's shooting 62% on drives, which is really, really fucking good.
Incredible.
Well,
yeah.
Like, Giannis is second in the league at 65% on drives. LeBron first at 66, and he's only driving 8.7 times per game. SGA is driving 20 times per game.
Yeah.
Well, he can't
go,
shoot, so.
Go, drive, go.
Attack. And the ISO numbers are like, obviously nobody can guard him because the ISO numbers are crazy when he drives. Like, I don't know.
It's interesting you say that his overall, like, was it pace or speed that he's running at is going down gradually each season, and I wonder if that's because, and again, I'm entering into wild speculation mode again. Like every year, like being too fatigued and just tired when it comes to the later rounds of the playoffs becomes a factor. You can say the same for Embiid as well. Is that, and I think that if you ask Jason Tatum about this, wouldn't he maybe respond saying, "Well, dude, we're 15-5, like." Yeah. What do you want? And we've talked about the fact that he could be coasting as well. Do you think that these are just signs of that it's an approach to a long season? He needs to have a gradual approach on picking his spots and where to be most affected, and when? And is this latest stretch where we've still, for the most part, been winning games, albeit in disappointing, underwhelming fashion, is it fair to say, again, speculatively, that maybe he's just coasting?
So I actually don't mind that he's coasting because I agree that he's coasting, but he needs to be better at coasting. So LeBron James is right there, right? He is so good at coasting. Like if he's gonna do something, he just does it, or he moves off the ball, or he's literally doing nothing. When he does have the ball, he's decisive. He's like, if I'm going, I'm going. Don't do the thing where you're dancing and going slow, because that just practice being decisive, and then when you're not being decisive, just like post up, move the ball, and then you're standing still. Like he needs to be better at coasting, and maybe he's still a young man. LeBron didn't figure out how to be really good at coasting until he needed to later in his career. But he needs to be better at coasting if he's going to coast.
Yeah. You want to sit in the corner for 3 straight possessions and just space the floor? Totally fine. You get the ball, do something with it, for the love of God.
Well, yeah, I think he wants to have his cake and eat it too. I think that these pull-up threes, it's a product of laziness. So he still wants to be the guy. He still wants to control the offense and have a high usage rate, but he also wants to not put his head and shoulders down and drive. And that's where I think a lot of these pull-up threes are coming from. Although historically, he's always, been jacking those up at a high volume. I think the other thing is we kind of almost need him to be 27 right now, where this team's at as far as their title-winning expectations and where the roster's at, and that we're going to have to move off some salary in a year or two. He's 25. I hate to keep making excuses for the guy, and I'm a massive homer, so tell me to shut up if I'm just barking up the wrong tree here. But if I went to work and came home and I was like, I don't think the company is being run particularly well, maybe it's because my boss is 25. Someone might say, well, fucking oath. Of course that's why. He's 25. He's the leader on the team. He's a 25-year-old man. I don't know. Obviously, we're holding him to different expectations because of, his salary and how long he's been in the year, and he's technically a veteran. But I have to think that you have to attribute some of these glaring issues to his relative immaturity. Sure,
but what's frustrating is I think he's more talented than some of these other guys that are, elite scorers. So I looked up Booker and SGA, they're all moving faster than him. And when you watch it the eye test kind of matches up. And I agree that he's not a finished product. Booker's a year older, but Tatum's a year older than SGA, and Ant's a couple years older. I just think that it's fallen short of my expectations because I thought that we would see more of an approach change, and it's mostly been the same, and these waxing and waning of effort. And this is, again, he's freaking averaging 27, 9, and 4 on 61% true shooting. So
which is all NBA level.
Yeah. He's gonna coast his way to second team All NBA.
Must be nice. Now, look, we're running crazy long here. So before we get to the Knicks game, which we'll do very quickly before wrapping up, anything else that's fallen short player-wise of your expectations, Spoonie?
I have one. Not my expectations. People's expectation. I try to warn you all. Great guy. O'Shea Brissett is not good at basketball. I'm sorry. He's just not. I tried to warn everybody. That's all.
Fair.
That's fair, yeah. I'll also add, where the fuck is Lamar Stevens? My expectations is that we would have seen him more. But I digress. All right, let's end on this. The Celtics, they play the Knicks in TD Garden tomorrow night, and Kristaps Porzingis, the Latvian... Not the Latvian laser. What's that nickname for him again?
Bear Slayer.
The Bear Slayer.
The Bear Slayer. He's back, baby.
The Bear Slayer. He's probable to be back. Probable to return. The Knicks, they're 4-2 in their last 6. They've got the 6th ranked offense in the past 2 weeks and the 16th best defense. The Celtics are 2-0 on them this year, but Julius Randle has been better and a lot more aggressive recently. Guys, what do you think? The Celtics, is this a runaway win for the Celtics? KP's returning.
I think the real question is, how do you feel about bringing KP back when they have like a rest off the back of this. I saw DJ Daniel in the chat here. Here we go. Right on cue. With this extra rest, you could have just rested him one more time and all of a sudden you get 3 or 4 more days. I don't think that they would play him unless he was absolutely ready. I think he was ready to go for the Pacers game. And like, if you play him now or the next game, he's going to basically be at 100% regardless. So I think it's fine.
My only concern is I would sit him for every Knicks game that's in TD Garden because Julius Randle just scares me with the way he plays basketball, with how aggressive and he's insane.
He hurt Porzingis last time with that was the reason he missed the second Philly game, was because Julius Randle gave him a bone bruise and he missed the one game there. But it's a good point. I hadn't thought about the Julius Randle effect. I reckon just rest Randle. Come on, it's time.
Yeah, I will say I feel like we're due for like a shooting 50% from 3 game. So
agreed.
That is my one prediction about this game.
Just
I think
one
it's a blowout.
game. Come on.
I know, God.
That's not like the Wizards or the Pacers without Halliburton.
Right.
That would be nice. Yeah, I mean, we talked about water finding its level, regression to the mean. I suppose it's progression to the mean as far as our 3-point percentage coming back up as Spoonie hypnotizes me through the camera there. All right, let's leave it there. Go Celtics. That's going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for joining us. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and help us navigate the algorithm. We'll be back early next week. Spoonie, Jake, love your work, guys. Until next time, go Celtics.
I love